Good morning, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Today is the 6th, the 25th November 2018. So, on the topic live broadcast of the TBC, the live broadcast of the TBC. Now, today, I want to say some things on the last discussion on this channel, and which is redemption period. Last time I discussed about redemption period, and also today I want to say some things as regard to the extension in the redemption period and the TBC. I told you earlier on that November is the redemption period, but kudos to admin who made it extended to January 31st next year. That is when the redemption period would stop. Now, before I share my screen with you, I want you to note some things. Now, in redemption period, what you are to do, you have to pay attentive to how we are going to read it in the blog. Those that concern the old members and those that concern the new members. So you have to pay attentive so as to know exactly what concerns you and what you are to do in this kind or time of redemption period extension. Now, what you are to do. Let us read from the blog, and I'll also put more strength to explain better to my own understanding. Now, let me share my screen with you so you people will know what I'm saying. Now, when you look at this screen, the topic is redemption period will be extended until January 31st, 2019 for those qualified. Now, cookie redemption poll. You can see it that there was a poll before the admin extend the redemption period. There was a poll, that is voting, that appear in the back office, and after the voting was ended and counted, we can see that the first place is January 31st, 2019 with 8,432 votes. The first place is January 31st, 2019 with 8,432 432 votes. And the second place is November 30th, 2018 with 5,208. Second place is November 30th, 2018 with total votes of 5,208 votes. And the third place is December 20th, 2018 with total votes of 3,440. 3,440. Now, after the end of the poll, the admin wrote, by popular demand, the November redemption period has been extended until January 2019. January 31st, 2019. So, that is the extension. When you look at this period, when you look at this screen, you will see a poster with Kringle code and symbol, and written on it that by popular demand, the November redemption period has been extended until January 31st, 2019. Now, let us read. Admin would like to thank the member that participated in the poll about extending the November registration period. The poll question was, which date will result in greater community growth to close the November redemption period? The larger part of the TBC community answered that a January 31st ending of November redemption period will result in greater community growth. I mostly agree with the poll results, but as you can see, the second place poll said it will be best to end on November 30th, 2018. And I understand that why this member think it should end then. Outside of a redemption period, member only get cookies which are not spendable or transferable. Are you getting it? Outside redemption period, people only get cookies which are not redeemable or spendable. Yet, the time in between the redemption period allow us as a community the time to educate our newest member properly before they have access to an abundance of coins that are spendable. So this is telling us that we have better chance in between the redemption period to educate the newcomer, the new people that join TBC. We will educate them properly before they have access to abundance of the coins that are spendable. The education is the priceless. Without the education, chaos develop due to misunderstanding and ignorance. So, to avoid chaos and misunderstand, so we need to educate the newcomers. The main problem with the extension is that some new members don't understand the value of completing a transaction with their sponsor. So another value is this. So the newcomers will now understand the value of completing the transaction with their sponsors. Without members going out there sponsoring new member, TBC doesn't grow. See the problem. So if the old member refuse to go out to sponsor new member, TBC will not grow. The community will stay as it is, so it will not grow. I need to balance the feeling of the new member with thinking of the old. So the admin need to balance the feeling of the new member with the thinking of the old. I'm not referring to the senior citizens member, and this is how I'm getting to do it. I'm going to run a special holiday promotion during this same 2-month extension that require a minimum transaction by new member coming in. So during this period, new members that are coming in will be allowed to participate in the holiday promotions, but they require a transaction by a new member coming in to access the extension. So to access the extension, a new member have to do some transaction. In other words, no transaction equals no extensions. So if there is no transaction, there is no extension. Take note of that. Sponsors need to be compensated. Sponsors need to be compensated to keep the balance and ensure ongoing community growth. I hope everyone can appreciate what I'm doing here. So the admin is now telling us that we need to appreciate the sponsors so that they will make the community grow. Generally, we are inviting the 4 billion working class. So admin is working to invite the 4 billion working class to join us in the TBC community. When you closely examine this group, it is alarming that about 50% of them earn less than 4 grain of gold in a day of work. That is poverty. So 4 billion working class that we are inviting, 50% of them earn less than 4 grain of gold. It is equal to they are poor people. We are on mission to end poverty globally, and we must take this fact into account. So we are planning to end poverty globally, so we need to take this one into account. Asking people that only make 4 grain a day to come up with 40 grain can seem impossible to some of these poor people. Some people that don't earn 4 grain of gold per day, how can you tell them to transact with 40 grain of gold? This will not possible. This will not possible to some of these poor people. So it will not possible. So this holiday promotion will be tied system and allow members to collect cookie for doing transaction as small as 4 grain of gold. So it means if you transact 4 grain of gold, so admin will reward you during this holiday. A 4 grain of gold transaction will be the minimum required in order to redeem cookie during the extended redemption period. So that will be a minimum requirement for you if you want to benefit from the ongoing holiday promotions. It means you have to transact at least 4 grain of gold. If you have already done a transaction of grain of gold or higher, then you don't have to do another transaction in order to redeem cookie during this extension period. So it is now telling you that if you have done that earlier before now, either 4 grain of gold or you transact higher than that, then you don't need to transact any longer. Let me take that again. If you have already done a transaction of 4 grain of gold or higher, can you hear that? If you have already done a transaction that is earlier before this time, if you have done a transaction of 4 grain of gold or more than that, then you don't have to do another transaction in order to redeem cookie during this extension period. So you don't need any other thing. You don't need to transact again before you can redeem your cookie. So also, I am not referring to admin fee of 4 grain of gold, and at the same time, so admin fee that you pay does not qualify you. That is separated. So that one is another case entirely. So take note. And also required in order to have a send button, and you have to pay it before you can have a send button. The tier will be a grain of gold. So the tier will be 4 grain of gold, 8 grain of gold, and 12 grain of gold, 16 grain of gold, 20 grain of gold, 24 grain of gold, 28 grain of gold, 32 grain of gold, 36 grain of gold, and 40 grain of gold. You will learn more about this holiday promotion before. So what they are saying is that the tier, it will be between 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, and 32 to 40. So grain of gold. That is what you are going to do to achieve what is necessary, and better still, the exactly what you can do to receive the cookie reward. So you have to learn more about this all-day promotion before December 1st, 2018. So take note of that. Before December 1st, 2018, you have to learn more about what this blog is telling you. So here in the blog, this is an exciting time in TBC, and we want to keep everything balanced for you. So admin now have said it that this is the time of extension. You have to take note of some things. One, there will be holiday promotions, and there's a criteria for you to qualify in that promo. And one of those criteria is that you have to transact 4 grain of gold at least. If you transact 4 grain of gold before now, you don't need to transact any longer. But if you have not done so, especially the newcomer in the TBC community, you have to transact at least 4 grain of gold. And at the same time, you can transact 8 grain of gold, 16 grain of gold, 32 grain of gold, and 36 and 40 grain of gold. So if you done that, you qualified to receive the holiday promotion, that is cookie reward for the holiday during this extension period. So I want to sincerely encourage you people, especially the newcomers, that this is high time you transact. Now, admin told you that you don't need to whatever you are planning to do, especially you don't need to redeem the cookie before if you are expecting such an amazing reward. So take note of this. I am sincerely encouraging you people that join a community of TBC and make sure you transact nothing less than 4 grain of gold, because the TB said it that we are inviting 4 billion working class, 4 billion working class, and 50% of this 4 billion working class, they earn less than 4 grain of gold per month or per day. So we have to put them into consideration for them also to take benefit from this ongoing holiday promotion. So I encourage you, my listener outside there, to please take heed and take the necessary step to be among those who will benefit. Unless I forget, the admin pinpoints and said it that your 4 grain of gold paid as an admin fee is separated. So don't take that one to be your criteria or areas by which you are going to have an evidence of payment. So please take note. Admin fee is separated from what you are required to pay. So kindly follow the instruction paid, and the sponsor go out there to encourage whatever you want to do. Thank you and God bless for listening to me. Have a wonderful Sunday.